Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Firstly, I'd like to welcome the Minister here and his officials today. And I suppose to say, to acknowledge, as previous speakers have said, there was great collaboration with the work of the Electoral Reform Bill by the Joint Oireachtas Committee, and I want to thank all those who actively involved and participated in it. I welcome this bill on the whole. I think let's look forward to the debate. There are a number of issues to tease out, and I'm not going to repeat what other people have said. But I'll start off by saying, in relation to the maintenance of registers, I'm a strong advocate for local democracy and local authorities. But on this occasion, I actually don't think it right that 31 local authorities should be duplicating or carrying out their own monitoring of their own registers. I don't doubt the capacity and ability or the integrity of a local authority. I think we should have a shared service. Either one local authority should coordinate it. I think we need a vast improvement and a professionalisation of how we manage the registers. And I would have thought that would have all been a matter for the Electoral Commission to decide, and maybe in time they will. But to have a different set of circumstances, I know in my own local authority that I live in, Dunleary, they do not call door to door. That's a policy decision they've made. In other parts of the country, the council actually send out field workers to knock on doors. So it's discretionary how they operate the system. And we still know that from old registers and out-of-date registers, the whole thing needs to be tidied up. And I think we have to embrace technology. So I am clearly staying here today. I would like to see another way, which would be a central authority that would manage these registers in a very focused and a very professional way, because I believe it's the right thing to do. And I've spoken to a number of local authority management who've said they see the merit in it. So look, it's something that maybe we can leave to another time, but I want to flag that because I think it's important to say that. In relation to the lotteries and funding for parties, I fully support the right to raise funds. That's democracy. We live in a democracy, and if people want to commit money, be it to their church or to an organisation or a sports club or a political party that's compliant with the law and within the parameters or the guidelines that are set down under legislation, I fully support it. People work hard, and I think they're entitled to make that conscious choice to make some sort of reasonable donation too, based on their means, but that's a matter for themselves, and I support that. I've said about the PLS, an area I am somewhat concerned, and I'm not sure if we really address this enough in the legislation. It's become quite common practice for candidates in elections to put out mock ballot papers a day or two before the election. And I am the subject of one of those, where as a local authority candidate, a colleague of mine rang me up and said that she'd picked up from one of the parties a mock ballot paper. Now, I didn't appear to have a picture at all on it. I was just a silhouette in black. I thought some weren't. I was also described as loosely an activist. Didn't say I was a community activist, just said I was an activist. It incorrectly gave my address from a different electoral ward than the one that I lived in. My neighbour stopped the individual candidate, who's gone on to greater things in these houses, and said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Oh, it's just politics." And he said, "I want you to stop doing it, otherwise I won't be voting for you." He undertook to do so, and an hour later his wife then went down and met the same politician doing the same thing. Now, it's only a local election, you might say, and I comfortably won the election, but as did the other four candidates. But the point I'm making is I think we have to look at that. I think the idea that somebody can mock up and make it very official, this is the official ballot paper, perhaps leave two candidates who are alphabetically ahead of them off the ballot paper, it's very false information. It sets out the professional person as someone else, mightn't be the person that he was. I so happen to have been a long-standing elected member. The original ballot paper, which I checked the next day, described me as an elected member, a sitting councillor. So I think it's only something that was coming up today. I hadn't really given a lot of thought to it, but that's potentially very, very damaging, and it's something that I think we need to keep an eye on. I don't think it's right that anyone should purport to be an official ballot paper that they have and can circulate, because once it has that sense of officialdom about it, people actually believe this must be the final, shall we say, the final race card. I think it's potentially could be abused. In relation to the issue of the marked registers, I hear what's been said about them, but I think it's important that we're also honest in this debate, and the public don't know at large that there is such a thing as the marked registers. And we might talk about the right of privacy of the ballot box, and rightly, but there are such things as marked ballot papers, and you can apply for them for up to so many weeks afterwards, either from the local authority or indeed from the Oireachtas here, I think, in relation to a general election. And I think a lot of the public would be horrified at the thought that there is such a thing that is within the law that provides marked registers. So if we're going to talk about people catching data and using data or manipulating data, we must be honest with the public and say at this very time, it is permissible in law to have marked registers which would show that you presented for a ballot paper. It doesn't necessarily mean you voted even. That you presented at that polling station for a ballot paper. You might not have exercised your ballot, you might have taken it home. And I think we need to look at that again, if we're really honest. Now, I know the advantages, political advantages of having that information, but I'm saying if we're going to talk about the whole issue of data and where these registers end up and how they're used, I think we need to talk about that too. And I'm going to revisit that as part of an amendment later on in the legislation. So I just want to say I think this is a great piece of work. I think there's cross-party collaboration, and I suppose mindful of all that's going on in this legislation is that we encourage more people to vote. I don't want to stymie political activity. I think it's great that people are active and they're engaged and participating in elections, and I think we must be mindful that everything we do in this legislation is about encouraging people to participate in the political process and to come out and to vote. And finally, I want to say that it mightn't be fully timely as this, but I'd love at some stage, if, and Minister, this is your party that drove this more than anyone, if we could revisit at some stage the right of 16-year-olds to participate in the process in elections. I think it's one that I would encourage and support, but that's maybe for another day, but I don't want to lose that opportunity again to say I think we need to look at giving the franchise of votes, certainly in local elections, in the next local elections, to 16-year-olds if it's practical and possible to do. Thank you.